Hey everybody, welcome to our final day of impressions for E3 2019. I am Brandon Jones. I'm joined by Brad Ellis.
Yeah!
And wouldn't you know it? That was my Greg Miller voice. How was it?
Oh wow, you
Greg
really
Miller.
What's up,
Intimidating.
everybody?
Funny.
You shouldn't know it, it's me.
The beard, do you think the beard helps? Do I gotta
Yeah,
grow?
definitely.
Gotta
Just
grow
and
the
then
beard.
having absolutely no care for your listeners' audio experience.
Right.
That helps out a lot too.
Do you ever finish like a show or something like that and you're like, that was too much? You're like, that was
No,
just,
God, no.
just that was just specifically on the chords.
No,
You're like that. Oh.
That, I was talking to somebody, Odell, who had done Kind of Funny Games Daily, and his voice, he was, oh, it's raspy. I'm like, dude, not even a chance anymore. Not even a chance. These things tempered in steel.
See, I want you in like your 60s with the gray beard, you know,
Sure.
just like the things that I've seen.
Totally, yeah. Like, oh man.
But on the first time on the Easy Ally stage, the brand new Easy Ally stage.
God,
It's amazing.
You're
That's
the
where
first
Tito
three
improved.
in the studio. And it's a pleasure. And it's such a fun opportunity to have you guys here. So, of course, I want to talk almost exclusively to Tim and check in with your E3.
I love this. Let's him host, baby.
How was your E3, man? I see this guy a lot. I saw him at Judges Week.
I know.
You know,
here we are. We don't get enough time to hang out. But I have a question. Has there ever been a Jones beard? Have we ever seen-
Yeah. I did on the honeymoon was a big thing. Went to Germany and we were there for 2 weeks. And
Just let it
that
go.
out.
Picture didn't happen. I didn't
Yeah.
figure this out.
But one of these days, two things I'm curious: the full beard, and just once I want to rock a shaved head. I'm sure it's not gonna be
Oh,
pretty.
wow.
What? But just to try it.
That was
Just to try it.
Do them at the same
I don't want
time,
to make
Max
a
Payne.
show out of it. Like
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
probably be like I'll have migrated off camera for my career probably by that point. I don't want to subject anyone to that, but my
Sure.
immediate family. But just to try it.
Yeah, why not? Let it
Because
go.
I can't help it. Whenever I have a friend that like shaves their head and it's clean, like I'll show it and hang out with them. I can't help it. I'm like, please,
Yes.
just for 30
no,
seconds.
you
I
have
just
to
gotta.
do that if you do it here.
I just
'cause
got it.
You cannot rob us of that smacking your head.
oh, gotta love
That's
it.
good
man.
content, Jones.
But we'll get to that'll happen sometime in the future. But what were you up to during the
E3, man,
the
it
whole
was just
thing?
me and Greg down here from Kind of Funny.
Right.
Normally we send the whole team down. So this time it really was divide and conquer between the two of us, which meant every hour on the hour having appointments. And it was awesome. Different experience for me at E3. Usually I'm doing a lot more of either hosting panels or doing video production stuff. So being able to actually play a bazillion games or see a bazillion games was awesome. And man, Final Fantasy VII Remake, bro. Are you kidding me? Let's go.
Let's
Oh.
go. Dreams.
Dreams, man.
Dreams,
Decade of
baby.
Dreams continues.
It's happening.
So good.
I think we started. I was talking with Brad, and it's like, what are we going to go over? And like, I got a guideline, but we can probably just shoot the shit for an hour.
What are your questions?
Yeah.
What do you
But,
got? Let's go by the lines of the guide, man.
Well, just enjoy. Well, Tim's
Yeah.
E3 is the
Okay.
first thing on my
Oh,
list.
great.
It literally
My
says
E3
Tim
is
Tim's
fantastic.
question mark end of story full sentence.
Tim Getty's E3 in a nutshell was Final Fantasy VII Remake has no right being as good as
Correct.
it is. It is undeniably my game of the show. Second place goes to Cyberpunk 2077. A lot
Nice
of that has
jacket.
to do with this dope reversible jacket that they gave me.
You money hat.
Man, but also the game was fantastic. Nintendo killing the game as always. That direct was awesome. Breath of the Wild 2. Are you kidding me? Banjo and Smash.
So
Are
exciting.
you kidding me? Playing Luigi's Mansion was a lot of fun. Can't wait for that game. And besides that, it was just kind of being surprised at the quality of a lot of games that in the conferences didn't look too great. Contra was one of them that like looked horrible.
Okay, now it's funny because like I'll have this like understanding and mutual respect, but also mocking at a lot of games that come to the Switch because it's like, that's great. I'm sure that plays really well. What a boon to people on that platform. What a fun thing to take, exclusively with you on the road. But like, Witcher 3 on Switch, that's hilarious. Like I think it's a great game, but it's just not, that's going to be the least, that's not going to look good.
Who cares? It'll
And
make fun.
again,
Don't
of
stop
course.
me, Jones.
That's
I'm
what
gonna
saying.
enjoy
You
it.
have that mix of like, okay, this is gonna be the worst looking version of The Witcher, but
Sure.
I'm tempted.
Yeah.
There's sure, I'll pinch my twist my arm, make me play that game again. But that's just a gross looking game. Like I feel
Oh, yeah, Contra?
that's like on a whole nother level.
It might be the worst looking like actual video game coming out in 2019 that I've ever seen. And to make matters worse, I played it on the PlayStation 4.
Ooh.
Like it wasn't the Switch game.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, this is
Yeah.
this is a console game, $40. So all of that, I was like, oh man, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing. I was blown away by.
Would
how-
you pay
how fun
$40
it was.
for it, though?
I would not pay $40 for it.
Making sure.
Definitely not. I'm just saying, and again, I'm to temper expectations here. It's like I enjoyed it more than I thought I would because seeing it, I'm like, this is the worst video game I've ever seen in a press conference. And playing it, I'm like, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
And then another one like that was Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, where I heard about it, saw it. I was like, all right, it's a Lego game. Seeing the behind closed doors demo
Yeah.
of it, it's more than a Lego game.
Yeah.
It's a reinvention of what a Lego game can be. So much content. They're totally changing the way the camera looks, that you're way closer to the character. It makes it feel a lot more cinematic. The graphics are gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the comedy's there and all the things you like about the Lego games remain, but I feel like they really are making an attempt to step it up.
Are they doing? We didn't talk about this yesterday with Snowbike Mike. Are they doing voiceovers from the movies? Are they doing an original story? Is it just clips from the movies? You're just hearing the same thing.
It's all 9 original movies.
Uh-huh.
The story of all of them.
I don't think there's dialogue in it though.
Yeah,
because
no
they're kind of
one-
So it's back to
beholden
that-
to what they did.
It's
with
back
the
to that
previous
Lego
games.
kind of thing. Because remember,
Yeah.
like the.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
it's that stuff.
Okay.
But I want to dive deep into that because Brad and I talked a little bit about that. But I actually that's an impression that I have yet to get to this week. And yeah, I was surprised walking out of that room. I'm like, oh, I just kind of wanted to tick that box and be like, yeah, Lego will show up forever, of course. Sure. I want my exclusive figure.
Yeah,
But yeah, that was really interesting. I want to dive deep into that. But it's Contra's interesting because it looks kind of grody, but I bet that makes for a solid E3 demo. And that's like one thing that was interesting to talk about is like what games look fascinating but might not translate well into something you can play in 5, 10, 15 minutes.
So it was weird because I got to play it for about 30 minutes, and that's like maybe
That's a long demo.
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
long demo.
yeah. You could pretty much just play through the game as far as you got. And I got about 3 missions in. But what was interesting about it is, Contra, you think 2D
Yes.
side scroller, one hit you're dead type game. This is not that. It's isometric, and the camera will kind of move. Sometimes it's side scrolling, but most of the time you're either like hallway, like Crash Bandicoot style going down, or it's kind of the traditional isometric thing. It's a twin stick shooter, but it doesn't play exactly like you'd think, where it's like you just perfectly aim and just are constantly shooting. In Contra, you just hold the shoot button and it's constantly. You can't do that. Your gun overheats.
Okay.
And it quickly becomes more about the strategy of switching between your two weapons when the other one overheats, because they overheat pretty quickly. And I immediately understood. I'm like, oh, the whole gameplay loop here is going back to your base and upgrading your weapons so that they don't overheat as quickly. And as you're killing the enemies, I was like wanting to have my guns be better so I can come back and kill them. And I'm like, that was the moment where I'm like, oh, I actually am enjoying this.
Yeah.
Because like the loop already got me.
Yeah.
That sounds like exactly what I don't want from Contra.
And that's the thing, is from Contra, I get it. It didn't feel like a Contra game. It just
Yeah,
felt
it's
like
like,
an
why-
interesting.
it's a weird I mean,
It is a weird
it looks like
project.
a Wii game, straight up.
Straight up. It looks like a PSP game, man.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just like
that's not
up-res.
talking. Okay.
And like Contra is about like just going nuts, blowing the hell out of everybody, like nonstop action. And you're telling me like you gotta wait for your gun to cool down?
Yeah, it's better than that sounds. I
Okay.
swear, man.
And he-
All right, I
swear.
haven't played it, so I'll
Here's the
take your
thing,
word for it.
It was fun. Like that's all that
Okay.
it was. Is it was fun, and I was surprised that it was fun because I'm with you. I like traditional Contra. Shattered Soldier is one of my favorite PS2 games. But playing, I was just like, there's something here that I haven't seen done in games before. So I thought it was pretty neat. But again, I wouldn't pay $40 for it. If it was $20, I'd be
Cool
like,
20?
it's a swimming in sevens type situation
Okay.
where I'm just like,
Free
all right,
PS
this is
Plus,
cool.
I'll check it out. Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I definitely want to talk about the showcase because we haven't really talked about that, and I think that's a fascinating thing. We were talking about how we did the reactions to it.
Sure, yeah.
And we didn't do reactions to the first one because I was like, I don't know what this is going to be. I don't know if this is
Fair.
going to be a reaction type thing. And I'm just curious about, kind of, because last night, and this is always true of every Thursday night after E3, I'm like in this weird kind of middle area where it's like, I'm so excited about all the games that I played, and I'm really proud of all these guys and the coverage that we did, but I can't stop thinking of stuff that we could do better next year.
Sure.
And I just wonder, like, where are you right now in terms of the whole concept of Kind of Funny doing this kind of thing?
No, the Kind
And,
of Funny Game Showcase.
How many are we going to get a year now is basically my
God.
Jeez.
First off, thank you guys for doing the
100%.
reactions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Everyone in the
world to
office
us.
was watching you guys. That was the thing, right? And as I told you, right, that was the most terrifying part of this one. The first one, when I didn't know what we were doing, and there's a lot more work, and it was killing us in December. That was terrifying on its own. Coming into this one, I had a better blueprint for what I needed to do, what the milestones were, knowing I was on track or behind.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until we turned out, it was like, all right, cool, it's getting ready to launch. And you guys started, and we turned on your Twitch stream. I turned up the speakers at my desk. We were all watching, and it was just that thing where I turned to Tim like, what if they don't like this?
Yeah.
Like, what if they were sitting there like, this is a waste of our time. We shouldn't have done this. That's when I got scared. And like, you guys came in and started talking in the very front of like what you thought you might get out of it. You had such a great rundown of what we saw last time, right? So I thought you guys did a great job as well of having the expectations set in terms of what you were getting into.
Well, you don't have to convince people like Ian because he's always saying like, why doesn't everyone do a direct? And like,
Yeah.
I was almost a theater major before I switched into film, and so I'm like, yeah, but it's like, the lights, the God of War with the violins.
Yeah.
You know, so like, it's a tug of war because I want the theatrics, and like, in a sad like way, I want the fails almost. Like I love a good Konami conference. Like I miss those moments because they
Mr.
are fun to
Caffeine.
kind of reflect it. Yeah, like as long as we don't get too much of that, like
Yeah.
it is kind of part of the spectacle and the nerves and everything. I mean, I want to move on to EA Play eventually.
Yeah.
And talk about that because that's
Sure.
like their own specific.
Man,
way
you
of
want to
doing
talk about
things and
running the
changing it up.
spectrum for an
Yeah.
E3? That's
But everybody has their own ideas about how to do stuff.
Sure.
It's been interesting seeing Bethesda's conference evolve kind of
Yeah.
over the years. And so I definitely think there is a place, we're all taking notes during these press conferences, and like my hand hurt. I was just like,
Sure.
slowed.
Yeah.
I completely missed one huge, like I couldn't even write the title down
Yeah,
before.
that's why I
moved on to
texted
the
you. I'm
next
like,
thing.
I can send you all the.
I should- yeah,
stop doing that. I can send you
forget I
all
have
the games.
connections.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was a huge success. You know what I mean? It was more than 60 indie games. We were super proud of that, and it was awesome because I hadn't thought this through. Right, when we did the one in December in the place of PSX, it was awesome. It was cool, but there wasn't an event right afterwards, right? Like it was Game Awards and then we did the showcase trying to take PSX's spot. So it was over months I'd run into somebody like, oh man, yeah, blah, blah, like thanks for doing this, or that was cool. To do the Kind of Funny Game showcase on Monday and then come to E3 and run, we were lucky enough that at the Media Indie Exchange, the mix, right?
I saw that. I saw you tweet that, yeah.
They went through and curated and picked out, I think it was like 15 or 20 of the games from the show to put into a room. So to walk into that room and meet all the devs for the first time, and I'd gotten so many emails from people of like, we're just a 3-man team. We never thought we'd be part of an E3 trailer showcase, whatever. The Skatebird, they
love Skatebird.
Skatebird's amazing, and the developer tweeted like she crushed her Kickstarter goal within I think it was a day of it after going live at the showcase, and she had this long tweet thread that was like, all I'm saying is that can you believe it's E3 and an indie was funded and this is thing? And somebody's like, I don't know how you did this. And she's like, well, it's a right time, right thing. Like the Kind of Funny Game showcase is the reason this happened. Like, right? Like that. And like, those are the stories that we're doing this for. Is, you know what I mean? Like, you guys know us pretty well, I think. So it's not lip service when we start that thing and we're like, this isn't about us. This is about the 60 games, right? Like, that's why we don't paywall it. There's no exclusivity to it. We encourage everybody to watch along, stream it, take, like we were only on YouTube. There was somebody on Twitch, right? A French site that had like 20,000 concurrents. You guys had 10,000. It was like, perfect, awesome. Get the information.
There
to
were
people.
reaction live streams that had more concurrent viewers than the thing itself.
Yeah.
And so, it was really fulfilling to get out of it. Because it is, you get to that point where it is just a lot of work. And you're like, God, this is so much. And then to get on the other side of it and like, you're like, thank God it's done. Yeah. And then have other devs start talking to you about it, right? You know what I mean?
Well, E3 is exhausting for us every year. It's always a lot of work to put a big show together.
Sure.
But at the same time, we're kind of prepping for work that we know is going to happen live. It's like we just have to be prepared and know that we've kind of like tried to fix every problem before we actually go live. But to package something like that, as big as that, before you even start the show.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like I always have this big, pie in the sky dreams before we do. I'm like, I'm going to cut all these promos for all our individual shows. Yeah. I'm going to have all these videos we're going to go to. Like whenever we have to go to a new segment, I'm going to have a whole specific, something pre-cut for that bit. And of course not.
Of course not. No.
To do any of that because you're also, how much time can you take off for E3? Because you're also, you got your own slate of shows. You're doing Games Daily and everything. So like you have to keep up with that as well. But it's kind of like, not to be on a soapbox, but I struggle with this because, someone like Sean Layden really questions like the validity of E3. Even EA's like, we're going to be over here. Like, even Microsoft, it seems like it's close, like is in its own theater. And so a lot of people are like, do we need to get together for this? And I think about the opportunity to not only showcase these types of games, but showcase type of games where everyone knows they should be paying attention. Like this is the weekend to do this. Yeah. And so that's what kind of I think is a bummer is, I would be so sad if I didn't have like something like a PAX or something like, because I get a PAX vibe from the showcase.
100%.
And it's because that's one of my favorite things. It's just walking around and looking at televisions I can't love everything, and I feel bad when I see something. I'm like, yeah, that's just kind of not for me.
Not
but
a branded game,
so wonderful when like, what is this?
Yeah.
And there's still some stuff I saw at PAX like 3 or 4 years ago that I'm still waiting on.
Sure.
But it's just nice to connect.
That's
with
indie
these
games. That is indie games.
But I remember Darkest Dungeon, which like a lot of people would kind of has that kind of AAA flair. It's been on a lot of consoles. A lot of people have talked about it. And when I first like previewed that at PAX, like they were so humble. And like I remember like tweeting out or messaging them later, and I was like, I just love your art style. And they're like, oh, thanks. And I'm like, I can't believe that you don't know that this art style isn't incredible.
It was the same
But they
thing
really don't. Like,
for us watching the Microsoft conference when they showed 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was that thing of like, oh, that. Wait. And I like went to our YouTube. I'm like, we had him in 2015 when I saw his game at PAX or whatever. And we did a Let's Play with him. And he's just a developer in San Francisco, right? And like we freaked out. It was like such a, oh my God, he made it. He's on Xbox. And then he DM'd me and he's like, hey man, just so you know, this happened because of that Let's Play. Like, you know what I mean? You talking to me and getting that game out there that way led to the Microsoft thing. And it's like, that's what this is all about, right? Like it's awesome to talk to our audiences, have the best friends, but when we can actually help these people who are making this art, right? And it is needle in a haystack, right? There are so many indie games that how do you possibly get the attention you need?
And I think that a cool thing is kind of taking all of our skills and mixing them together, where it's like for a decade now, we've professionally critiqued press conference, right?
Yeah.
And when we look at them all, we know what we like, we know what we don't like. And I feel like I'm with you, Jones, where it's like, I want the Disneyland production value and fireworks, right?
You had to say the D word, man.
Oh, yeah, of course. But it's like with that, it's like you need to have the content to back that up. I look at the Square conference this year, and they started it with the
deep dive.
The deep dive of Final Fantasy VII, but it started with the like curtains going up, and there was the painting, and then there was the title screen of the game. You're just like, oh my God, this is awesome. But then they didn't really go back to that throughout the show, and it kind of just turned into trailer.
Yeah,
and it's just
talking.
Oh, see, you kind of missed the mark because you set my expectations here, and now I'm just
It opened like that PlayStation conference, right?
Yeah.
Where it was the live orchestra.
That alchemy of expectations, I'm obsessed with. Like,
Yes.
it's so fascinating to see because I imagine like there's got to be a lot of people that miss the mark or their game just like huge AAA stuff, millions of dollars spent, and nobody cares, and they're like at the end of E3, like what happened, you know?
And that's why with the game showcase, our whole thing was like, we need to make sure that we are listening to our own advice, and we need to set the expectations correctly, and we always talk about things not going fast enough. So we're like, let's go as fast as humanly possible. And on top of that, it's like, but let's make sure they know what these games are, because the thing that we hate the most is seeing montages of games, and you see a logo.
Happened at
and it's
Xbox
just like, boom,
again this
boom.
year.
There's
Hey,
like some dubstep playing.
let's check out what's happening with the ID at Xbox. Logo, a game. You're like, what is the game? Like, what am I doing? And like, how would I possibly remember that? Right? That's my whole point. Is I want to remember.
What we decided to do was make sure that we had VO. We had the developers write a like tweet-sized description of the game, comparing it to what other games are similar, or what's going on, what console is it coming to, and then we would trade off doing the VO of like, Skatebird's a game like Tony Hawk, but you're a bird, and blah blah blah, and like we'd have the lower third say the name of the game, the consoles it's coming to, all that. It's like, why don't other people do that?
How did you draw the line between stuff that would get, you know, a full trailer? Was it just having the trailer? Like, were they, some people just had B-roll?
I publicized it, just said, hey, we're doing it again. Hit me up with a game. And so when I get them, I ask for footage and we go from there. And usually what it comes down to is the announcement. Usually is the biggest part of it, right? So a trailer announcing a game or announcing a release date or announcing a Switch thing makes the most sense. And then if it's just an update or a DLC or whatever, go off that way. And then what the games look like and how they want to get packaged.
If you ever get tired of that VO, you know what I mean? If it ever becomes a strain, like too much, you know, you want to kick it up a notch. Just
I love it.
Yeah, no, that's great.
How are you going to react to something you've already done, though?
That's the thing.
That's what we struggle with. Of like, well, we can't do reactions to our own press conference.
Well, that's a perfect transition into EA Play, which Brad and I both attended. Brad went to go get coffee, had a very hard time getting back in.
Struggle, man. I feel you.
But that's an interesting event.
Yeah.
There are some things I love, some things I don't love about the way that that's set up. I don't know what you're contractually obligated to talk or not talk about.
I can say whatever the fuck I want.
That's
it.
But how do you feel about being in that position and being obviously like, because I think one of the things Huber runs into this. Fortunately, Huber is on assignment, is working today, so we'd love to get Huber.
Little hat press
love to
tag
get that Huber Getty's.
The hype, let's go.
You can feel it, the sizzle. It gets hot in that room. But Huber sometimes will just like Shenmue, like he's just over the moon about this game. He's just absolutely freaking out. And I try to communicate to people what I see. I'm like, that is just so genuine and raw. Like you can't bottle that. You can't stop it. It's just going to happen. And so I know you well enough, Greg, that like when I see you excited, when I see you come out and light up a crowd, like you are feeding off that. You're like, I couldn't do this any other way. I wouldn't want to be on stage. This would be a waste of time if I didn't come out and I'm just like, what's up, Stig? What's up, Vince? Let's talk about this. But at the same time, like flash forward, 8-10 months, and you're like, ooh, Fallen Order didn't turn out that well for some whatever reason.
Oh yeah.
Is there difficulty there? Is that something?
I came in and turned on the monitor. I was like, oh god, what are they about to show? And there it is.
Wow.
Brandon Jones with a shaved head.
Dude,
Brandon
absolutely.
Jones shaved head. Right there, this shaved head one.
First of all, that beard is way too dark. That needs to be full gray.
Shaved head with beard. Brandon Jones looks a lot like Shel Silverstein, the Giving Tree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Man, I love it.
And you're also shooting for a good Lex Luthor.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Do it, dude. Do it.
Definitely supervillain vibes, and the coat too.
Love it. Love it to death. So what was the question? What if it doesn't turn out?
Is that difficult? Is that a difficult balance?
No, I don't think so. And I'm lucky enough that the only people I think it would the people who hold me to the standard are the Kind of Funny best friends, right, in the audience, and I know that there's a huge crossover with Easy Allies, and it's the fact that they know and I'm very open about what I do and why I do what I do, right, and it is that I love talking to passionate people about their video games. And that was true with Up at Noon. It was true when it was just Podcast Beyond. It was true now with Kind of Funny. And so when people approach us with these kind of opportunities, and it was this year, the production company I've worked with before for a million other projects, usually the IGN WWE esports thing, right? They got the EA conference, so they were running it this year. And they came to me and they were like, hey, we won the EA contract, we're doing it, and what we're pitching is, let's not you're EA, do not do that same tired press conference with suits and Pele and all this crap. You know what I mean? We want to do something different and we want you. And I was like, well, you understand, of course, you have to tell them that what that means is that does mean that I'm going to come in, but I'm going to want to ask my own questions. I'm going to want to talk about certain things, and that obviously they don't own the conversation before, after, or during. Right. And they get that. That's why one of the reasons they want you is that they understand that that's something everyone knows about you. So for me, these opportunities are always just akin to doing Up at Noon, where it was you bring in somebody who and I'd bring in so many games that what you're talking about earlier, right? Mm-hmm. I personally don't care about. Here's an MMO that I'm like, oh, WildStar looks like a lot of fun. I would never touch it in a million years, but hey, let's talk about it and what's going on. So to be able to feed off that energy and talk to developers that way, I think is something I'm good at, and what I love doing is they're excited, they're finally ready to talk about it, but getting to when it comes out and it's crap, no, we'll talk about it being crap then. You know what I mean? If that's what's happening. Tim gave it one of his games a show.
I was so blown away by Jedi Fallen Order.
So you played it?
I got to play it.
Dude, the demo with just the waves of enemies was the best part of that.
Oh my god, that was awesome. But so I should have started the podcast talking about that instead of Contra. That was the game that I was wrong about, though. But my point is, I feel like this E3, there's been many games that seeing them, I'm like, playing them, I'm like, oh man, there's something special here. Jedi was one of those for sure. Seeing it, I'm like, the story looks great. This seems Star Wars in a good way. Mm-hmm. But it looked kind of loose. It looked like it wasn't going to play well, and the combat wasn't going to match the standards of God of War, which I feel it looks close enough to that I'm going to compare. Getting my hands on it, I was like, this plays like God of War. This is tight. I know what I'm doing. L2 for force pull, R2 for force push. The push and pull of that felt so good. And it made me realize that, oh man, Respawn, they always have traversal down. Mm-hmm. The combat, though, the melee combat of all this, and was so impressive to me that I'm like, you combine that with an authentic Star Wars story, we're gonna have something really special.
We also did Judges Week together.
Yeah, we did.
Which was fun.
Always is.
Tim, you want to come to Judges Week?
Well, that's the problem. We can't. We do so much other content and stuff that it's we can't send everyone here. And so when he's doing Judges Week, I need to do games daily at home.
Right. I totally monopolized Judges Week the first year of Easy Allies. And then slowly we're bringing in other allies. But you actually came to an appointment as well.
I sure did.
Still hoarding that Oculus Quest.
That's right, baby.
The Quest is so
good. What do you think about Judges Week? Anything, this year in particular, or just the event itself?
I thought it was a good primer for what E3 was going to be. Where it was all right, cool. A lot of we get in the bus every day, right? And be like, so what did you think? It was a lot of solid stuff, no stinkers. But it was also very few, oh my God, what did we just see? What did we just play, right?
I feel like that shuttle should be its own show. I feel like we should get a camera on that shuttle, because the shuttle's the best. That's my favorite part. The shuttle in every 10 minutes before an appointment starts, where we're all just kind of either talking, anticipating the next thing or just catching up.
Yeah, there's something there that none of us have hacked yet, and it's because we're all so busy. Yeah. But You're right. It doesn't make sense that at the end of the night, one of us hasn't set up a room that is just like Giant Bomb, where you just click on a bunch of stuff and we all sit down and we record these things that we put up the week after E3, right? Where everything's finally out.
Because just to like set the scene, like I'm local, which is actually great. I'm curious actually to get your opinion as an Outlander coming into Los Angeles to cover an event.
Sure.
Because I'm flying up to San Francisco all the time.
Yeah,
for stuff. And so I actually had a break for an hour because they split up the Call of Duty appointments, and so I'm like, oh, I have 2 hours. I'm gonna go home and like grab a jacket or something and eat a meal, and then I'm gonna head over to the independent evening, which is my favorite part of Judges Week every single year. And so I finally get to the event park, which is just down the street from my house, and then walk in, open the front door. The first thing that I see is Andrea Renee and Greg Miller on a couch screaming into microphones, playing Supermarket Shriek, and I'm just like, what is going on here?
A game designed for me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, what you just described, I was like, that is literally 90% of Greg's day every day.
Right. But again, it's like this, that was such an interesting space for it that year. And just every time, After Party was a great example where I watched so many people play it, but by the time it opened up, and they're like, do you want to sit down? I'm like, I think I'm good. I've seen this scene like 5 times. And not in a repetitive way. It's fun to see Steimer play it. And then it's fun to see, Ryan from IGN play it. And, so I just love getting together with all those people and just all being just exhausted and cynical and and really honest, just kind of not only because an appointment will finish and we'll get a good 20-minute discussion on a shuttle, and then there's a quiet time, and then somebody will be like, hey, what does everybody think about this thing that just came up in the news?
And that's you're nailing it, right? Is just the fact of how we are an interesting industry where we're all, I think, so good at our craft, right? In podcasting and building these fan bases and writing articles and doing previews. But how often do we get to see that in each other? You know what I mean? I'll run into Ryan McCaffrey on the show floor, and it's like, oh, great, blah, blah. I always forget to tell him how great his Tesla podcast is, how great IGN Unfiltered is, right? Not to mention that I don't have the time usually to listen to every Unfiltered or every Tesla podcast. So it's that thing when we're actually all together, and it's not we're at some Fortnite party. And what's the best thing you've seen? Oh, you want to do? Oh, you're right. I'm all booked tomorrow too. When we're actually there, and we have nothing else to do but hang out and talk about games. It's awesome. That's the only time every year I get to hang out with Austin Walker. And every time it's why don't we do this more? He's like, we live on different coasts, and we're both too busy to go out and spend time with each other. I'm like, that makes sense, right?
That's so awesome. I've only been to Judges Week once, and it was last year, and it was only for one thing, and that was Kingdom Hearts 3.
Hell yeah.
And that was awesome because that was the time where
that was a fun
I've known
evening,
you
man.
forever. I met you forever ago, but I got to meet all the allies, and we were just kind of hanging out and talking. I met Damiani and stuff.
Eating ice cream, dude.
We did. Ice cream, man. And that's also when I met Austin Walker, who thought
me too.
Thought you worked at Square.
I worked at Square. Dude. And do you remember? You were right there with me. And he never will let that down. But
he apologized.
It's fun. Oh yeah, he did for sure.
But again, selfishly, it's the kind of thing where it's like, well, E3's going away, and like, I hope not. I hope. I mean, I love it being in Los Angeles, but also it just feels like. I guess we'll move on to Gamescom or PAX will have
even if E3,
take over another city or something.
E3 goes away. I feel like again with Judges Week, there's something there that even if Jeff Keighley didn't want to do it or somebody else wanted to organize it, there's definitely something there of cool. E3's going away. PlayStation's going to keep doing State of Plays. God, I want to call them showcases every time. Nintendo's doing Directs. Xbox is going to keep doing their Xbox show, right? They're gone. No more. Google's going to keep doing Google's Connect. I think there'd be that AA space of, well, no, we are Sega and we are THQ Nordic and we do want to get together for a week and have people come and play these games and figure it out. I'd like that.
It's fun. I always tell you that. I think I've told you this 2 or 3 times, Greg. I want the Batman Forever Val Kilmer tube, to San Francisco.
Sure.
That would be so good. Just wake up and
get that hype.
Either that or the Fifth Element, like the gas. You just press the button and look at that.
I'm here.
I'm in San Francisco. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Because I did, when I was on with you guys talking about Easy Allies, that it was a trip that I planned before Game Trailers folded, and I was just like, I just gotta go to San Francisco for no reason, because it felt so different, and it was kind of funny. I stopped by. Oh God, I can't. I said it. I stopped by and talked to Gerstmann for a little bit, and I could get the sense when I came in, he was like, "What are you pitching me something? What's going on?" And I was like, "I just want to talk. I just want to check in. It seems kind of an opportune time."
Yeah, when when we started the YouTube channel, when it was just youtube.com/GameOverReggie, like I came down to LA for the first and only time where I was like, I'm going down for a week and just going to collaborate with people and see things and do stupid stuff and see friends and go to studios and talk to people.
That's what we need to do. Field trips. Okay.
Yeah.
We need to have,
Field
I need to
trips.
get together with Keely. We need to have city field trips where you pick a city and then you pick another city that everyone in that city has to go to.
Yeah.
And then we all welcome you. Okay. And then we all,
Yeah, hell yeah.
potluck at
Games
my
industry
house.
does Hawaii. Let's go.
There we go. Who's in Hawaii? Is there any notable streamers or channels? God, wouldn't
The
that be
Rock's
great?
there a lot.
Wouldn't that? Yeah.
Works for me.
Is he streaming? Is he streaming?
Not yet,
Is Rock
but
on
I'm sure
Destiny
he
too?
will.
What's going on? But speaking of Judges Week, so we've been doing impressions. That's why we're here today.
Sure.
You're the second reason. Primarily, we're here to do impressions. It was a two birds with one stone that we could get both of you guys in here
love
today.
it.
And it's always like these impressions just bleed over until the next day. We hit the end of day.
Oh,
Thursday.
yeah,
It's like
no,
as
you can't get
hard
it
as
all.
we
Yeah.
possibly try, because not only there's so many games, there's 9 of us, but like it's hard to tell like how long are we going to talk about something. Sometimes we go rapid fire through these. Sometimes it's like an hour-long conversation. There's 2 things on my list that are left over. Granted, these are not super exciting titles, but I know you played these because you were at Judges
was
Week.
there.
If you were doing your
My
civic
due
duty to play these
diligence.
games. So I'm going to give a nice clean open, and I'm going to get 2 impressions done from Judges Week. So Greg Miller, you were with me at Judges Week, and THQ Nordic was an
Yeah.
appointment I really dug.
Yeah.
So I walk in, I like freak out over Destroy All Humans because I was a big fan of that. They got Darksiders Genesis, which really surprised me.
Dude,
which I,
that's
like,
one of my
went back to.
standouts of the show that I have not talked about on anything yet. Because again, like you're saying, there's too many stuff. Darksiders Genesis was rad.
And this is not, haven't played Darksiders 1, haven't played Darksiders 2.
Yep, me neither.
Didn't play 3,
Yeah.
and just, jumped, and even like, which is interesting because this is not the video impressions that we're doing, but gave me like the Lara Croft vibes, like Temple of Osiris. And all that
Gave me
stuff.
Diablo vibes, which
Yeah,
is
it was
why
a little,
I was all about
little mix
it.
of
Yeah.
both. But a title, and easily one of those things like, showcase PC gaming show style, could just completely flow through E3 without people knowing about. Through the Darkest of Times.
Right.
Do you remember this?
Oh yeah, it's hard to forget this one, Jones.
Well, but it's an interesting mix. This is before World War II. This is the beginning of Hitler coming to power.
Yeah.
And so it has to deal with this idea that like half of most of the population is just kind of like going along with it. They're like, hey, well, hear him out. Like, this we'll see what happens with this. Like, and it's kind of like McCarthyism, where like you have like people are worried about losing their livelihoods and kind of getting caught up in this, and so you're starting this resistance, and you're recruiting people and sending them out on missions and kind of taking building a network, Watch Dogs Legion style.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a very like cartoony art style, or like I'm trying to think just graphically what to compare it to.
I mean,
very,
yeah,
very 2D.
it's-
It's lots of menus and
It's
and
it's
simulation.
like it's a management game, right? It's a
Oh,
sim
okay.
game, right?
Gotcha.
So yeah, you do have these cartoony characters that are black and white, or at least like really gradiented down and to look more like that. And so yeah, you have it's not. I never looked at it and thought it was funny or lighthearted, the art style, but the art style is very much thick black lines, lack of color as you go through this really harrowing time and story with that. And like I don't know how much you got to talk to them about what like the game entails, like on multiple playthroughs and stuff, because it is like a fail state, permadeath. It's
Oh
over
yeah,
it.
it did not work out well for anyone. For myself, anyone in my group,
And
I
that's
finished up with like 2 people left. And I was
as
like,
you do this resistance
demo.
right against the Nazis, and you're
Yeah.
you're sending people out to try to buy paint or get materials to print flyers, the paint to write, make posters and stuff. There's like the the danger level of the mission they're going on, their chances of success, because they go there and then the shopkeep goes back the back of the store and then doesn't come back, so it's like they run away because they're scared and they lost the money then, but they're also they could lose their lives, they could be arrested, all these different things. You see it all start getting more locked down. You see the Nazi influence come back in, and it's all based on the historical events, right? So we know this will not end well. Like this isn't going to end well the first time, but then your next playthrough, after you've beaten it once, right, you can go in there and then change history and go through and actually hopefully overthrow the Nazis and do all this different
right.
stuff. Like there's a lot of interesting things they're playing with, but it's incredibly serious subject matter, and it has weight to it. And they're putting up those newspaper articles, right, and telling you how bad it is, and you can see your guys fail, get taken away.
It was a lot of reading. It was a lot of simulation. And again, it's in talking about good demos versus bad or difficult demos.
Sure.
in
Demo,
E3.
yeah.
Like we have 4 games to play at this one appointment. I don't know if I'm playing this one game. I don't know how long Darksiders is.
Yeah.
And so it's like, just to be safe, I'm going to kind of fly through this a little bit. So like a lot of information was sent at me that was like, oh well, that person's dead. That person got arrested. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll just accept that and move on. But it was interesting because it was a lot of. It's interesting for a game like this, simulation-wise, where you kind of you don't. It's like Mass Effect. I'm not going on huge missions, to get to know these characters and really dig into their backstories. But really, how much would you know about these people if you were recruiting them and not seeing a lot of them because you're constantly going out and setting up posters and going on these very dangerous missions.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting going back to HQ, and you would see like this cast of people all just kind of standing there staring at you, all not in the best of moods.
And they have their own pros, their own cons.
And
what
one
they're good at.
person just pops up and is like, "Hey, I think this person's a danger. I think they're probably going to get caught. They're reckless. We should just kick them out of the group." And you're like, "No, I need that. I can't just do that." But then I basically have to pick between these two people if they're going to be at odds. And so it was interesting. It's something again that I played so quickly and did so poorly. But, I imagine would be immensely gratifying to be really good at it. And do a successful playthrough.
It had the pangs of Valiant Hearts for me, right? Of like, let's give you
Of course, it's a great comparison.
and that's a great and like way less color, but a similar art style, like in terms in obviously subject matter. But like, let's give you something that you can learn something from, you can take something away, a historical event, and play with that way and have serious subject matter to it.
Another game that I checked out that you also checked out, because I think we were talking about this. I might be, delusional. I talked to somebody said that they had played it, and it's from Double Fine, which has, it's got some interesting press of the show. Picked up at Microsoft.
Some interesting press, yeah.
Psychonauts 2, a very fun. I loved your use of Tim. That's
Yeah.
if I have one request for the showcase, two requests actually. One,
Sure.
please use and abuse every single celebrity you possibly
Got
can.
it.
I love the roasting.
yeah.
That's the kind of funny way.
That read from Fenoy was so great.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you're worried you're going to run out of locations now. Is it like Showcase 3 going to be like
We got to go somewhere other than San
like,
Francisco for the next
Nick
one.
found a $5 bill here.
Yeah,
one
exactly
time,
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Double Fine also brought Rad
Yeah.
to E3 this year.
Yeah.
And that had an interesting, Greg was there from Double Fine and didn't really give us a lot of heads up. Granted, I didn't talk to him that much about the project, but I didn't fall in love with that game, and I'm curious if that's just not my style. Like it's, so you also played Rad? Were we talking?
Yeah,
about
I
that?
played a little bit of it.
He brought up Brad nailed it. He said it was kind of like Garbage Pail Kids.
Sure.
I was just like, when I looked at it.
But reminds me of not in aesthetic or storytelling or anything, but just perspective reminds me of Bastion a little bit.
Sure, that makes sense.
So floating islands, walking around, a little bit of platforming. What did you think? Just kind of first and last impressions of Rad.
And when they revealed Rad, not at Judge Week, but when they revealed it for, when was that? Game Awards, that one is? They showed the trailer for Rad. I looked at that and I was like, that looks dumb. Like that does not look like a game I'd want to play. And so then Judges Week, of course, the power of it and why it's so great is like, okay, I have to play it. Like I'm here and I'm judging it.
Another really great thing about Judges Week, I love. We did on Frame Trap last year. We do a bit called Noodles and Broth, where we have to bring a really big game and a really small game.
Yeah.
And last year I just knocked Ben Moore off his chair when I brought up Total War 3 Kingdoms. Because he's just like, when did you make time for that?
Yeah, exactly. Judges Week, baby. But that was the thing, is I sat down with Rad with no expectations, if not low expectations, and I actually enjoyed it. Like it actually became a game. I'm like, oh, I'm actually gonna play this when this comes out.
That's good.
Because and that's the thing too. It's a roguelike, right? So it's like those. I feel like Rogue Legacy nailed it so well for me. Of getting to go back and bring back my money and actually change and go. Like Rad isn't doing that. There are a few things that have opened up and been different in any other one, but it was such a weird idea and weird visual style. But I do like the random mutation you get and how that'll affect gameplay. I thought the shooting was fun. I thought it was simple enough. We had to activate 3 different beacons to then open the door to move to the next thing. I was like, I'm actually having fun with this. If this hits at a time when you're not swamped with a million other games, I could see me actually investing time in it.
It does have little beats that I like. Did you have headphones on when you played it?
Yeah.
Did you hear that? I love that you press the pause button. It's like pause.
Yeah.
It's just definitely 80s over the top
totally.
aesthetic. I guess I should have picked up on the rogue tendencies because I just wasn't good at it. I was I really had a hard time, and it's that's the danger of a rogue is the just fatigue. Just
of course.
that 8th time you head back out so is that did you find it difficult or was it?
I didn't.
What the
in the beginning, I did not
you.
find this, and it was very much an introductory section. But I was not struggling with it, which is the problem I have with a lot of rogues, where it is oh cool, you're just punishing me over and over again. And one of the reasons I like Rogue Legacy was I'm coming back stronger. You know what I mean? I'm more hit points. I can actually get into this and feel it. This one I felt like I had a pretty good handle on it, and that was one of the reasons I probably enjoyed it.
And I think I was. It felt like something where I'm I think I missed a tutorial, or I think I'm not achieving probably the goals I should be achieving in one specific run.
And it's just like you said, with the other game, it's the same thing of Judges Week, where it's like, all right, cool. That was Namco or Bandai Namco, right? And there's like 4 different games to play. So it was that thing of like, cool, let's get in, let's go, and then you're going, and it's like this will be a different experience when I'm sitting on my couch.
Oh yeah,
enjoying it.
Well, that's what's funny. You talk about Total War 3 Kingdoms. In the next room over from that was Sonic tag team racing. So it's just like it's so much fun at some of these appointments just to have completely polar opposite things. On the next side of the room from that was Dragon Ball Kakarot, and then next to that was Code Veins. You're just like 3, very, very.
Let's
very
do it. Let's
games.
play them. Sure. Yeah.
But rad, kind of, the showcase impacts vibes. It's the kind of thing where you could look at, you could see 30 seconds of gameplay and know immediately I'm in or I'm out. Like that's it's just interesting with all of the stuff that obviously Double Fine wants to come and swinging with Psychonauts, which I very much enjoyed.
Me too. And that was the
very
thing. We finished the Psychonauts 2 demo, and I was like, I've never beaten Psychonauts 1, and I went and re-downloaded the PS2 Classic on PlayStation 4. I'm like, I gotta play through this because that number 2 looked so great, so much fun.
And another thing that's great about Judges Week, independent evening, we're all boozed up, and like Greg's demo,
boozed up all the time.
Greg's demoing Psychonauts. We're like, come on, Greg, and like
we're all
he like
yelling,
falls off a tooth and went hard. We're like, I think like Andrew was there, and there was like the tooth zipper. Andrew's like, I'm not okay with this.
That was too much.
It's really nice. Again, it's
gums
like
and teeth.
all of this, it's lost. None of this was recorded. None of this was live streamed. It's all lost. So yeah, I actually Desperados 3, which I don't want to talk about. I'll save that for Huber.
Yeah.
Because Huber was
Is
way
this
into
like an
Desperados
XCOM
3.
Western game?
Yeah,
dude, that's
but
awesome.
I want to wait to talk about that with Huber specifically. But that is my last thing from Judges Week. One of my very last impressions from the show. So it's nice to be like, I almost talked about everything. And it's a bummer. I feel bad because I'm kind of like that, teetering when I think about E3 this year because like bummer Activision doesn't have a booth, bummer Sony has no presence at all.
Yeah.
But as fun as it is to finally get access to those games and sit in a nice cozy theater and watch a neat demo of Fallen Order, bummer to have to like travel that far away from E3 to visit EA Play.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's like got a little elbow room this year. When you get that special aisle on the plane, you're like, I can actually stretch my legs out. So it's nice actually having an extra hour between some appointments that I can actually like sit down and have a nice lunch. Yeah. So I don't know, take the good, you take the bad. But there was still some stuff that I saw at the show that I want to do impressions. This is not going to be an official impressions from Easy Allies, but I have to know what you think about Avengers. I'm very curious what.
So I saw the
Where are we with this
demo
game
of Avengers?
Yeah.
And it is probably my biggest disappointment of the show.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, you didn't see this demo, but based on what probably you've talked to Tim about it, I bet you can kind of get a sense.
Oh,
of
I mean, I think when Tim talks about it and just extrapolating from the trailer,
Just
we
filling
saw,
in the blanks.
You're like,
Yeah.
like that was the thing when the trailer ended, right? At Square, it was that like, well, that didn't look great.
I'm willing to give this game a shot, but I'm stoked to hear your impression.
Oh,
ready for
I'm
this.
definitely going to give it a shot. I'm still excited for it.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's tempered excitement now where I'm understanding what this game is going to be, and it's not going to be Spider-Man. And I think that is the biggest issue is you got Crystal Dynamics, right? They're known for the Tomb Raider reboot games that are amazing, these narrative experiences, the closest things to Uncharted you can get multi-platform, right? And you're going to apply that to the Avengers. That should be awesome, especially in a world where Marvel Games cares. Bill Roseman, they care about making these games special experiences and not just pumping them out because the MCU is hot right now. And seeing this Avengers game, it just feels like it doesn't have the opportunity to be a 9. It looks like it's somewhere in the like, I'm hoping it's an 8 at this point. And I want more from the Avengers, right?
Yeah, it's the flagship.
Yeah.
You expect like the best. You want the best from it.
Yeah, and there's elements of it that are really, really cool. Like the voice acting I liked a lot. The dialogue I didn't. The gameplay reminded me, and I mean this in a bad way, of mobile games where the UI on the screen, and I'm sure a lot of this will change.
Sure.
But there was like 3 circles on the bottom right hand corner of the screen, and it really kind of looked like, oh, here's one special move, here's another. And it just like, oh, now I'm into this pre-canned animation. And it feels simultaneously like QuickTime events, but also just like things that you start doing and you can just keep mashing it over and over and you'll do the same thing. But it felt like there was no sense of collision with the moves you would do. So Thor would start spitting the hammer just like in the MCU movies, and the enemy would just kind of like get hit and wouldn't react to it the way that you'd think it would. And coming from Spider-Man, where it's like every punch and every swing kick that you do, everything acts how it should, and
Yeah.
it, like the gameplay, you're in control of it, but it looks like Spider-Man's fighting. This kind of feels more just like, oh, there's a generic character that's swinging a generic thing that's hitting someone. It's not Thor with Mjolnir.
I feel like there's this crank, like a slider, that like once you raise it or lower it, you have to kind of have certain expectations when it comes to superhero games.
Yeah.
So like with Spider-Man, yeah, like the combat's so much tighter, but that is one character, you know, so that is like a developer really focusing on specifically like everyone in the entire studio is just like Spider-Man. And so you have this game where not only are we being introduced to these 5 characters, but of course there's so many others that are in development right now.
Yeah,
and
they
getting
put out
tested and tweaked and
they
stuff.
were talking about it.
That-
Right? Every environment,
yeah.
every
That
character.
3-button setup has to work for everybody.
Yeah.
So flying characters, ranged characters, close-up characters, and then you have something like Ultimate Alliance, which is like probably, you know, I think in the general like, you know, LA Times, Forbes like approach to E3, like much less exciting to report on than something like Avengers, which is a big deal. We're seeing it for the first time, but because I have even kind of less expectations considering Crystal Dynamics and the franchise that they're dealing with. We get way more characters, we get way more flexibility.
Right.
There's just kind of a general more fun acceptance of like it's a fun party game, it's a beat 'em
That's
up.
what
We're
Ultimate Alliance always was. Smash
Yeah.
some crates, get some stuff, move on. Yeah.
So it is in this weird place.
Avengers
kind of in
feels-
between all of that.
It feels at odds with itself because it feels like it desperately does not want to be the MCU and it wants to be its own thing.
Yeah.
But then everything that makes it cool are the MCU elements.
Yeah.
So it's like seeing Iron Man like do the
moves.
The moves. It's like, oh, that's the Tony we know.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or like Thor like doing it's all of this stuff is like, oh, that's the exact animation from the movies. But these character designs look weird, and the way they're talking doesn't feel like Robert Downey Jr. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like Chris Evans. Like these characters look like and are acting like they're supposed to be MCU, but they're not, and they're trying to be clear that it's not, and that's where it gets weird. And I feel like that's another place that Spider-Man succeeded so much was that you don't compare that to Tom Holland.
Right.
Like you look at that Spider-Man, like, oh,
Yeah.
I believe in this universe.
Yeah.
I don't believe in this universe. The story seems really cool and interesting. The A-Day stuff, all of that's rad. But the gameplay that they showed us, it was essentially going across the Golden Gate Bridge as Taskmaster and his cronies were attacking. The stakes felt very low from a gameplay perspective.
Sure.
San Francisco's getting destroyed, and it didn't feel like the Avengers were taking it seriously.
there was an urgency to
There
it.
wasn't urgency to it at all. And you start off seeing the gameplay of Thor, then it goes into gameplay of Iron Man, and then Hulk, and then Black Widow, and then eventually Captain America. And none of them looked particularly fun to play or interesting. I think Black Widow was the most interesting to me. And I think that's because she reminded me of Lara Croft in the Tomb Raider games, where dual wielding, very like mobile and like jumping around. But then the phase 2 and 3 of the fight where you're playing as Black Widow, she kind of jumps on Taskmaster's back and he has like a jetpack and they're flying around. And I'm like, this is just a bunch of QuickTime events that don't look fun or interesting.
And because of that, it makes me wonder, because I always, like, my brain always kind of tries to think of a timeline. Like, whenever I see an idea executed in a demo or in a game that I'm playing, I always wonder, like, when did that happen? When was that decision made? Like, how hard was it to evolve the development of this game to get to that point to finally decide, okay, no more talking about this, we're done. That's it. That's that decision. And I wonder if almost since like day one, they were like, the beginning of this game is going to be our E3 demo. Like the beginning of this game is going to be a big set piece thing that we can cut a short trailer out of, but make a 20-minute demo out of at the same time, that we can demonstrate that all of the characters will be in, that will kind of have the best of both worlds. Because I remember when Spider-Man first debuted, they had the crane sequence. And a lot of people were like, well, this thing's just going to be jam-packed full of QuickTime events. And it wasn't. That was a very weird mission compared to a lot of the other ones. There wasn't a lot of that, like, you know, press this button to just do this big, elaborate, crazy thing. And so I wonder, and again, this is, I don't know if you know, every mission could be like that. I have no idea. At the end of that demo, we saw like a little bit of a taste. They were like going through a canyon or something. And I could see like, oh, it kind of looks like Iron Man's got a little more freedom now. And when I interviewed them later, actually, and I haven't talked about this yet because I interviewed 2 people from the team yesterday. First question, I was like, please tell me I can fly. Please tell me if Hulk's down here and I'm Iron Man, I can leave. And one of the PR reps was like, they're the Avengers, they got to assemble. And I was like, wrong. They have to separate. I was like, I'm like, remember Avengers, remember that awesome shot where like Hulk and Thor are on top of the lizard and Hawkeye's up on the, you know, and like Iron Man, you know, flies and then lands and he's next to Cap. And then there's Black Widow and she, you know, so it's like this kind of synergy. And they do a little bit of that when Black Widow gets on the jetpack. You see, I love like an ambulance falls off the bridge. She's like, Tony. And he's like, got it.
He got it. And then the Hulk comes in and grabs the bridge as it's falling apart. It's like, there were moments that were like, this is awesome and this is Avengers. Yeah. But I just feel like they were way too few and far between.
It's a rough coming out party.
It's very telling they didn't show this gameplay at the conference. And like I feel like they should have.
I think it would have done a lot of goodwill if like right after Endgame launched, like literally like that weekend, because even like the weekend after that, everyone's like, how's Endgame going to do this weekend? It was still part of the conversation. Like maybe 1 week later, it would have been nice to do like a tease of all of them lined up where you could kind of see them, but not really, and be like, from Crystal Dynamics, from Square Enix, congratulations to the MCU for completing this. We hope you're ready for another adventure in another world. So you could kind of see like, whoa, they look weird. So by the time we get to E3, we've already transitioned through that, it was just so jarring to just boom, there they are. And like Cap's like, I have a different voice. And you're just like, there's no way this could have gone well. Yeah. It's just too much too soon or too sudden.
And the problem, it's just such a glancing look at it, both in the trailers and then from what you're talking back and all the impressions are just mixed on the internet, right? About it. It just doesn't seem like people even the kids I saw.
It's not a home run.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I heard from anybody that was like, I liked that.
Well, people came out and were like, oh, I saw Avengers. You liked it?
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm excited too.
Because I and this is going to sound like super pompous. It's not like, but it's fitting into what I thought it was going to be, and like I thought that was the kind of demo we were going to see. When we were talking about it before, I was like, I'm getting Monster Hunter vibes from this. I think it's going to be something where it's like headquarters, go to mission, come back, sort out your stuff, sign up again, go out on a mission, come back.
Sure.
Sounds like it's gonna be a little more linear than that. That they're like really stressing the story.
Yeah, you guys both saw it. And I haven't talked. Tim gave me his impressions. I haven't heard this. So they say in all the marketing materials that were out, right, that you have solo and co-op missions. Is it that I have a mission and I can play by myself, or is it that I have solo missions and I have co-op missions? Do you know?
I think every story mission sounds like it's both. You can play by yourself, and you'll either be just one person or have other people with you. But the Avengers are assigned to that mission, so it's like this is a Black Widow 4 mission.
I have a question.
And then when you replay it, now you can bring back hopefully Deadpool.
Do you feel like the synergy between the characters, like that they are the Avengers and they know each other so well? Like, are you doing stuff with them together, or is it just kind of like everyone's doing their own thing, not really interacting?
Only in quick time events.
That's it?
Okay.
I did, yeah.
Like, how sick would it be if you could do a team-up move or something?
Yeah. Yes, I did ask about that actually from a gameplay and a lore perspective, because I loved Far Cry 5 when you would have two specialists together that knew each other and they'd be driving and they would have a conversation in the back of the car. And it was a bummer, man. We played Ultimate Alliance and someone played a Spider-Man, and Spider-Man walks up to Jessica Jones and she's like, I think Wilson Fisk has that Infinity Stone. He's like, who? It's like, oh, like first conversation missed like a huge obvious, like Spider-Man would know who that is. And so I asked him, like, that's a tough thing to, juggle with all of these characters. And they're like, it's really important to us to have those moments where, you'll have Deadpool riff on people. They didn't say Deadpool. I don't know if he's in it, but like you'll have these moments of, these characters recognize each other. And we had a little bit of that because Taskmaster and Black Widow talked about S.H.I.E.L.D. and, but that was obviously
brought up a lot.
The writers knew she was going to be in that mission. So like, it seems like they want that to happen, but then again, it's just them smiling, sitting in chairs telling you this.
The world they built was really cool. I don't know if they talked about this in the press conference, but in the trailer, the extended trailer we saw after the gameplay demo, there was voiceover talking about the Terrigen Mist coming in and how it changed everything and the A-Day happening and all this. It's like there was a lot of world building and like just characters and hints at things that I was like, this seems really cool, and I'm interested in the idea of Captain America dying and it leading to 5 years later the Avengers like being together. Yeah, exactly. But being together, but not being the Avengers anymore. And it's like, especially hot off the heels of Endgame, very similar story, but I like that it's just different enough that I have questions. I'm intrigued by the story, so that alone, I'm going to want to play this. I just hope that the gameplay backs it up, and I hope that the characters, I just feel like, again, it's at odds with itself, where both in trying to get away from the MCU, but also in trying to understand, like, okay, so is it solo or is it co-op? Because if it's co-op and you can't choose who you want to be at any point, can the story be as perfect as it wants to be? Like, can you tell a good story if people are trying to play as the Hulk the entire time?
I don't think it would have hurt them to go into that a little bit. To lay out a structure.
And like the presentation was so weird at the press conference where it was like, boom, and like, all right, all the DLC is going to be free in the game. Like, wait, what's the game? Like, wait, you haven't set up what the game is enough to go into that. That's exciting, cool, free, more characters, but what? How's any of this work?
Especially because like I'm almost 100% convinced that what we saw is not what happens when you go on missions. Like I think like
that was just the tutorial
mission.
setup.
I just have a strong feeling mission 2 is going to be the camera comes in as conversation, blah 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 blah, and then Iron lands, and then Black Widow flips in, and then you're just playing.
Select
You know,
it,
it's not like,
yeah.
oh, a big crazy set piece moment right away.
Yeah.
It's like a Destiny mission, like an Anthem mission, and it's like, okay, now you go do it, and it's fun, and we might have a little set piece things once characters come into it, but it's just like kind of a really glossed up
figure-
Ultimate Alliance variant.
I love your thought process on trying to deconstruct it. Like, and if this was the way they're setting it up, right? This must have always been the E3 coming out party demo because it jumps 5 years later, right? And you see like
Right.
Tony who looks like Kevin Coelho in there with like the long hair and the big beard. It's like
Almost intentionally bizarre. I think.
exactly. And so you figure like that would be even weirder if it was 5 years later and we're jumping into whatever the evil is and how these people are different. We have no backstory to it. Like
Right.
start with this touchstone of them in San Francisco and still being the Avengers before they
Yeah.
stop it.
That would have been an interesting beginning of the trailer, like cut to the park and then pan out to this weird long-haired guy, and then
Yeah.
and then the shot gets wide enough that you can see he's got
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
That would've been
Mhm.
interesting.
That would've been
That's
nice.
got chills.
Yeah, Craig, how do you feel about them, like essentially with Captain America stealing the storyline from your beloved Batman vs Superman?
You know, if his mom
with
turns
this
out to
very
be
predictable-
Martha, you know.
Okay,
That's the thing is like, yeah, when Captain America's dead and everybody's like, oh man, that sucks. I'm like, you hit the nail on the head, right? I'm just like, all right, well, Tim saw somebody play as Captain America. There's no way they invested all this money,
Yeah, no, there's
money
no
and
way.
time into making a Captain America character that
there's
you
gonna
can't
be
play.
the
as.
scene of Black Widow's gonna get a phone call to meet someone somewhere, and she's gonna walk in and like, oh, who's here? And he
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
out of the shadows and what?
Yeah,
like,
wow.
The train goes by.
And I love Cap so much, I'll be
Take it.
emotional.
Yeah.
All right.
Did you like Ultimate Alliance?
Yeah.
Me too.
For what it was. It was
Exactly.
fun.
That's this conversation we
The
were
camera
having.
seemed to kind of zoom back a lot.
Right.
There was one shot in particular that I'm like, I don't remember Ultimate Alliance or the Legend games doing something like this, where we were on a rooftop and it pulled back really far.
And it was like 2D, right? And we were running on the side. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was new. That was
And I was
new.
like, okay.
That's cool.
Especially I think it's smart too with, we all have these like, grody like border, like you have a yellow border and I have a green
Yeah,
border,
yeah.
which helps because it just gets so, it's like an MMO.
Chaotic.
It's like, you need to label me somehow or I'm just going to miss my
Yeah.
character. I have no idea where I went. The combo moves are so funny because it's just,
Yeah, exactly. They're like, all right, everybody activate them at once. And we all did it. It's like, poof, all our faces come up, and then it's just pandemonium. You're like, I don't know
think
what that
Blood
was.
was Storm, and he just did like whirlwinds, and like I just wind. There was just, literally
That
the
was
screen
it.
was just
Yeah.
like silver for a second, and then everyone was dead.
Yeah.
You could mess up a lot of things with that game, and I would still be there day one and play all of it.
That's my thing. Walking away, like,
Yeah.
getting ready to go on a plane today. I was like, man, it'd be awesome to have Ultimate Alliance right now. Just
One of-
grind
yeah.
out, getting Spider-Man better.
One of those text an old friend games.
Yeah.
And that's what's always fun when an E3 is over, when you like check in with those friends that aren't necessarily. They'll find
Yeah.
out next week or they'll hear later.
Yeah.
And you just text, oh, Baldur's Gate 3, buddy. And then
Yeah,
check,
yeah,
load up the
yeah,
other
yeah.
friend. Played Ultimate Alliance, pretty good.
Yeah.
And then bring up the other one. Like,
great.
Jedi
Yeah.
Fallen Order looks pretty neat. Speaking of Star Wars, one last thing, and then I'm going to just boot you guys the hell off the stage.
Love it.
And continue with impressions. We have special guests coming in. Obviously, we have a whole office full of allies that are just chomping at the bit to get here and tell you about awesome things that they saw throughout this week that we have yet to talk about. But one final thing, now that I got the both of you here, and we kind of hinted at it a little bit. Of course, the most important game at the show, Star Wars Lego, the Skywalker Saga. But it is an impression. This is our official clipped out conversation about this video game that I went in. It was funny because when you get these appointments, this was just like WB game.
Hey, we got a Lego for we have an
from
unannounced
TT.
Lego game.
And I
Or,
was
yeah,
like, full disclosure, did you know about this? Did you see that coming? Did you
That it
know
was Star
Skywalker
Wars?
Saga was the thing?
Oh, I knew it was Star Wars. I didn't know if it was Skywalker, so I didn't know
cool.
the name of it. But it's because like I book everything for Kind of Funny, and just me and Tim. But I book all the stuff, so they hit me up and like, oh no, I'm like, all right, so it's a Lego game. Is it DC, Marvel, or Star Wars? And they're like, it's one of those. I'm like, all right. And I'm like, but I want to give you the best person. You know what I mean? And like eventually got it down. The game of Guess Who.
And I feel bad. I miss our old, Lego Disney Infinity squabbles we used to have, Craig.
Yeah.
So,
It was all love. There was no
those are good
squabbles.
times. Oh yeah.
And now that Disney
Well,
owns
that's why I use the word squabble. No one's
Squabble,
no blood
yeah.
is being shed over a squabble.
now that like Disney owns everything, I'm like, man, I wish Disney Infinity was still around just for the figs.
But there's so many Lego games that I miss, man. It's literally like my blind spot. Like I get, and
Really?
they're so wonderful because they keep sending me these games. Marvel Superheroes 2,
Yeah.
I didn't touch, man, at all. Like I think I played with Amanda for like an hour, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh god. And the Incredibles is like, I would play it. I would totally play this. This looks like a lot of fun. Even Lego City Undercover, I picked it up. I think it was that's
Wii U
a
classic?
PS4 now, right? Yeah, like I think
Yeah.
I paid the PS4 copy, and I was like, boy, this is hilarious. I didn't even think about all the parody like Shawshank Redemption jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much of Lego stuff that I haven't explored.
It'd be always
And when
hilarious, Shawshank Redemption.
when this bumped up, I was like, okay, well, I didn't play Force Awakens, but I have played not only 1 through 3 and 4 through 6, but then when they packaged that together and the complete
Oh,
saga,
yeah.
played that as well, because they HD'd a lot of that stuff and it was really gorgeous. It's like, oh man, am I really going to come back? And I dug that showing, and they're actually adding a lot of fun, playful stuff, which I think is really like the heart of this franchise. But I still have questions. I want to start with your impressions first, but I'm curious how this is going to be structured.
I was very impressed with the demo they showed us. They were talking about how every single vehicle in the game is actually made with Legos, so it's like the design makes sense. And
Digital
like,
Legos, yeah.
digital Legos, but like could be
Yeah.
a real set, which is awesome. It kind of adds to the look of it all, and it's gorgeous. And so seeing these vehicles in the beautiful worlds that they have, I was like, whoa, this actually looks like a very pretty game, which I don't typically associate with the Lego games.
Yeah.
There was an opening shot of you're controlling the Millennium Falcon flying in space through asteroids, going towards planets. I'm like, this looks awesome. Then they go and land on Tatooine, and you can switch between the characters, normal Lego stuff, but the camera is from behind the character. It is more like modern third-person shooter style camera angles, and they added a cover system now, so you can like hide behind things, and it just looks so goofy. But like that's kind of the fun of Lego, is they get to play with the stories and the characters, but like they get to joke about the fact that they can break apart and rebuild and stuff, and they show that off a lot with C-3PO. The butt of the joke of the entire demo was just, how many things can we do to C-3PO? What can we throw him into? How can we break him? You can literally break him in half and control either just his legs or just his top half. So that stuff was fun, but it was cool seeing you got to play as Luke from Return of the Jedi. Well, you start the game up and you get to choose what movie you're doing. So Star Wars 1 through 9, all of them. I really liked the menu. It looked so
Yeah.
cool.
A little diorama of every movie.
Yeah,
A little
and,
scene.
made with Lego, and you get to see like an iconic scene from those movies. And I was like, oh, this is a cool way to present this. But we went into Return of the Jedi, and immediately it's like, oh, this is a really open world. It seems like there's a lot to do, a lot of things to interact with. And you start using the Force powers, and it's really cool to see the amount of things you can do, of like picking up Lego boulders and putting them together and either attacking people or building things with it. And it just seemed like very ambitious, both in amount of content, covering all the different games and all the different story beats or movies, but also in terms of gameplay of like, this seems like a lot more than the Marvel Lego games that we played and stuff. So.
Well, yeah, how easy it would be to just make Lego 8 and 9, package that with all of the stuff that they've done before, call it a day. I bet that would sell very well. But so I was a little surprised. I'm just curious structure-wise, and I saw you went to the appointment, so you saw Parsons there, and he was like just walking out of the room, so I didn't have a chance to grab him. But I just wanted to grab him and be like, is this the same game of 1 through 6? Like, is that literally the exact same?
No, it's not.
Okay, that was like my big question. Like,
yeah, they were saying that it's like rebuilt from the ground up. And I was
because with the Force powers, like big thing is they're like you can force anything. So before it would be like like it would kind of like glow when you get near it. That's the thing for the puzzle. And now just soldiers.
Yeah.
This sounds awesome. It sounds like a huge step forward, because honestly, when it came across the email of like, TT Games appointment, I was like, oof, I'm a bit tapped out right now. I'm like, and it's, I love Arthur obviously, and I love the team over there. I love those games, but I was like, I'm not stoked just to go see a Lego game to see a Lego game, and that's why I was like, oh, it's Star Wars. I think Tim, would you be interested? Oh, okay, cool. And then he comes back, and I'm like, oh, the perspective is different. I'm like, damn, that sounds like I should have gone and seen this. And it seems like I need to know more about what they've changed.
And that cast is just going to be insane. That is going to be definitely maybe Marvel can compete, but that's like
most characters.
That is going to be an insane list of characters across all of those movies.
And just the Lego charm is there, and there's just something about it felt reinvigorating, where I was just like, oh, this seems fresh for the first time in a long time.
And you said the magic words, Tim, that makes my ears get tingly every time. Open world.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that, so we go to Tatooine. You skipped right over the Super Star Destroyer that popped up that he mentioned was built in like 160 million pieces or 16 million, but
jumping
you get
in
the
from
millions,
hyperspace. Like when you're flying the Millennium Falcon in space, like there's asteroids, and then all of a sudden just this giant Star Destroyer just hyperspace.
And he said, just random stuff will happen, like random ships will show up and fly next
and
to you.
And like you can jump out of the ship and land on the Star Destroyer. Arthur was telling me, and I'm like, that's awesome.
That is rad.
And so when he went down to the planet, he specifically picked and I was telling Brad this, like the area around like the moisture farm and Jabba's palace and the Sarlacc. But Mos Eisley was a different area, so you'd have to fast travel to Mos Eisley to explore that, but you could still see it. So it's like a little canyon area, and like in the distance you can see Mos Eisley.
And what was cool too is, that stuff, we don't see Mos Eisley in Return of the Jedi, but even though we were in the Return of the Jedi game and we're on Tatooine, like it exists.
It's there,
so there's different things happening, even though that wasn't canon in that movie, but it's there because they're on the planet.
Did you go to
Really
Jabba's palace?
No, you could see it from a distance, and
We
he
walked
saw
outside of it.
and we saw the sail barge, which was right over the Sarlacc pit, and like you're saying with the vehicles, the sail barge was 100% Lego.
The
So it's just
Sarlacc
neat to
pit
see.
was also
Lego,
Lego, and you use the Force to pick up C-3PO and just drop him in.
Jawas. And just, like,
That's great.
Any
yeah.
Watto signings?
No
Any
Watto signings.
No, but I mean,
That's
you
that's
can
unfortunate.
He
you
will
can go
be-
chill in his. I would imagine, episode 1, you could just go to his place
hang out
and
with
hang
him.
out.
Hey.
I wonder how they identify areas that have multiple appearances in multiple movies.
I mean, it'd be interesting. Can
like
we find-
Coruscant, can I do Coruscant in episode 2 and 3 and 1, or does it just pick one? It's
Yeah, I
like no,
wonder-
Coruscant's mostly episode 1.
If we could find Watto in like episode 4. Let's
Finally
see.
figure out what happened to this man.
Exactly.
Some say the most important
He's a
person.
family man
in
now.
Star
Connect
Wars.
the dots.
Yeah.
But even just that. I mean, I think that was the thing that impressed me most because you're a Lego junkie, Miller, and like
Yeah.
I love these games so much. But inevitably, 4 or 5 times in every single Lego game I played, I hit a puzzle that just pisses me off. I hit something that I'm like, what the hell am I
What
supposed
do you
to do?
want me to
And it's
do?
such a weird, arbitrary early adventure game. This twig needed to connect to this
Yeah.
weird dumb thing. Okay, fine.
Or
And-
it's the most annoying one where you think you've assembled something completely and there's like one brick somewhere that you didn't. Like,
So that's why I actually like these bigger zones where you can just kind of go and explore and check stuff out. Like that's the sweet sauce for me. Like
Sure.
that's the stuff I really, really enjoy. And so when they said like multiple planets from multiple movies and these planets individually each have multiple cities that you can go explore. Like
Yeah. And the puzzles
I'm
we
probably
saw-
just gonna do all of that
The
before I
puzzles
even
looked
do any of the
cool
missions
too. Like
Yeah.
they had a Gronk droid, and it was there, and then like it was like Gronk, 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 and like you see the subtitles, and it's just that over there. And it's just like oh, you need to switch to C-3PO because he
can translate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he can translate all the different
Oh,
languages.
that's neat.
Then you can translate, and then you get a mission there, and I'm like, this is cool. Then you
That
can
is
switch
cool,
back
yeah.
to Luke, and then you can force control this like bantha thing or whatever it was. To either make it dance and like
Oh, it was
then
Bantha, it was dancing,
yeah,
yeah.
people get excited about it around it, or you can like anger it and use it to attack other people. It's just cool, fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's neat because some of the stuff you're talking about, like my demo guy was not as abusive towards C-3PO. I wonder if that was some kind of deeply subliminal
Well,
thing.
like I was saying earlier, Doug Bowser was in our in the demo.
Oh, so
and
it's Bowser with the anti-C-3PO.
they brought
crusade.
the heat. Like the guy doing the demo. So Arthur was playing, and whoever the dude that was on the mic, he was trying his hardest. That was the best demo he's ever put on.
Wow.
For that
I imagine it
game.
was coming to Switch. I didn't do my homework. I didn't check specifically, but
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was there.
it must be.
yeah. But very cool. Yeah, obviously as a Star Wars fan, like I'm
Yeah.
hooked on that. But it kind of reminds me of like a Dying Light 2, a demo where I went in being like, I'm probably gonna play this, but this will be neat, and walked out like, hey,
Dying Light 2 was cool, right?
Like even
Yeah.
like Cyberpunk, where I'm like, it was so good last year. I'm like, okay, don't show me the same thing. And then I was
Right.
like, all right, what am I even talking about? You guys are just
Yeah.
out of control with this stuff.
So good.
But there's a little impressions for you, and of course we have a lot more impressions to get through. But what are we gonna do? We're doing something else. What are we doing to tease more content
I
from
don't
you
know
guys
yet.
coming later
We'll
this week?
figure it out. But yeah, there will be content on
My favorite types.
youtube.com/kindafunnygames of us talking about video games.
Yeah.
It's always such a relief too. Like whenever I guest and go up there, like I'll pop in and just be like, okay, like what's the schedule? And like Kevin's like, I don't know.
Kevin never knows.
Yeah, or like go in and like check with you guys in the back, talk to Nick, and just like, okay, am I going on next? Like when your name is called, walk on the stage. Jones.
Someone
It's not hard.
always knows what's going on at the moment. Is that communicated? No, it never is. But hey, it gets done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always just effortless to sit down and talk to you guys again. I
Love
don't
it,
need this
man.
like sheet of paper, but super fun to get you on the stage.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having us.
And I'm gonna just aggressively do it whenever there's just some way I can just tap in and know your schedule. You know,
Sure.
just like find
Well,
Greg,
I mean,
find Greg.
I'll add you
Anytime
to
you're up
Google
there-
Calendar.
Yeah, it'll be great. But anytime you're up in SF, we'll make time. Like we can figure that out.
Nice.
We got a lot of shows, a lot of options. I'm happy to be here for the first time. This is crazy. Can't
Yeah.
believe it took this long.
Yeah.
But congrats on the studio and
Thanks,
everything. Like this
man.
is huge. You know.
And you have more impressions, right? You got some other stuff
I
to talk about.
don't know if to check.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of a blur, man.
We are all at that end of E3
Yeah.
exhaustion
It's been
of
a
like,
long
I don't
time.
know,
Yeah.
whatever you
Yeah.
need.
I'm gonna see if I can get some time. Maybe we'll do it sometime in the future. It's never too late to talk about Desperados 3. But I also checked out Iron Harvest, and to your to what you were saying earlier, Iron Harvest used to be a sponsor of the Easy Allies podcast, and it's a bummer when stuff sponsors us because like we have to because we actually like do tons and tons of reviews, as many as we can crank out. Like we do try to do that separation where it's like if you are going to be sponsoring us, we're not
Right.
gonna we'll talk about your game, but we're not gonna give you an
gonna review
official
it.
score.
Yeah.
And so like we will not be scoring this game, but they're gonna have a demo. Iron Harvest is gonna have a demo that I play. They're going to make that available after, so it'd be fun to like stream that or do gameplay of that. But it was also really fun to, they have so many people coming in and hello, and I don't think he maybe recognized me right off the bat because it was just mostly email back and forth, and so I shook his hand. I was like, yeah, you sponsored us, and he was like, oh yeah, like, it's been like a year or two, and so it was so cool checking in on the game and actually like getting to play it after like running that ad so many times. So I've yet to talk about that. I went to one at the Hotel Figueroa where I played Beyond Blue and Endless Mission, which are two very different games. And that's from the team that made the game in Alaska where you were Eskimos or you were native people.
Ice
Climbers.
Climbers.
That's right.
No, nice. Oh, jeez, terrible. But they made a wonderful game that was an interesting like 2D side-scrolling game. That's name it. Boy, watch that. I will have that name when we actually do those impressions. I will have the name of that game. So I have a couple other games to get through. We have people that are talking about much bigger games and stuff that we talked
25 more games, I think.
Yeah, some incredible impressions going on. So we gotta, you gotta go.
If I could talk about one
go.
game real quick that I want to just give a shout out to.
Yes.
Killer Queen Black.
Yes.
Did you guys play it at all?
No.
Have you heard of it? Do you know
No.
Killer Queen?
I probably saw the logo somewhere.
so-
it's in my brain somewhere. The imagery from this
Killer
game, but-
Queen came out, I want to say at this point, probably like 4 years ago.
Arcade phenomenon.
It's an arcade phenomenon, and it is a 5v5 arcade multiplayer game where you and a bunch of friends, it's very focused on like barcades. So you go, drink a little bit, then you get to go play with your friends. And it's old school arcade style where you pay the $1, $1 gets 10 people to play. And whoever wins gets to stay on for free. And then people need to come and keep playing. And next thing you know, it's 3 hours later, and you've wasted $30 and had a great time. It's hard to explain, but it's a 2D game, 2D platformer, one single screen, right? At the bottom of the screen, there's goalposts on the left and right, and there's a giant snail in the middle. You can get on the snail and then ride it really slowly, and if you get it to your goalpost, you win. Another way to win is each team has one queen. If the queen dies 3 times, the other team wins. The other way is there's these berries that you grab and you have to bring back to your nest. You need to get like 12 berries to win. So 3 very different ways to win.
Yeah.
And it's all happening at once. So it's this chaotic strategy where you need to work together and keep an eye on what the other team's doing at any point. And it just turns into this beautiful symphony of chaos where you're just like, he has the snail. Oh, they have the berries. Oh, we only have one more thing. Get the queen, get the queen. And it's like, it's beautifully balanced where you're either the queen or you're a little dude. You're a worker. If you're a worker, you can grab a berry or ride the snail. Or you can grab a berry and go into this little door and it transforms you into a warrior. If you're a warrior, you can't hold berries anymore, you can't ride the snail, but you can kill other workers.
Right.
So it's like, it's so cool to be able to just keep going and going. And it's finally coming to consoles. It's coming to Switch. It's called Killer Queen Black. They're changing it so it's 4v4 instead of 5v5. Totally rebalancing everything to work better for online play and all that. It's also coming to Xbox and
Game
PC.
Pass.
Yeah, Xbox Game Pass. No PS4. No release date yet, but they're targeting this year for sure. And a really cool feature that they were telling me about is there's going to be the official Twitch stream for Killer Queen Black. And this game has an amazing community. Like it is a phenomenon over the last couple of years. And if you ever get your chance to get your hands on an arcade, do it. It is so much fun. But the official Twitch page for Killer Queen Black is going to... So there's the blue team and the gold team. They're going to add the black team where you get these super cool black neon accented outfits for your whole team. But there's only one team in the world that gets to be the black team. Whoa. And they're going to start it, and you get to be black, and whoever's the black team is streamed on their Twitch channel constantly, 24 hours a day. And when they get beat, that transfers. So they're trying to mimic the arcade kind of being able to own the machine.
What a fascinating concept.
It's going to be awesome.
It's such a great way to take that experience and put it into video games and live streaming. So the dominant teams are going to just be able to be watched by everyone, and everyone's going to be trying to take them down to get the black outfits. So cool.
People are going to steal that.
Dude, we got to try to...
Ubisoft is going to steal that.
We got to try to get that black outfit, man.
Yeah.
We got to do what we can. Like, we got to
see now there is a Let's Play.
Yeah.
Easy Allies versus Kind of Funny.
Yeah,
Killer Queen Black.
Yes.
Let's check in with the control room. How are we doing in there? Are we ready? Oh, this is okay. There we go. Right on cue. Nice. Yes, we are ready to wrap up. I love both of you men dearly. I'm also done with you for right now. So
Yeah.
it's just, it's both of those things can happen at the same
Exactly.
time. Just as like we were saying, it's really nice, to get together at these events and to finally spend time together. But like, when you hit your limit, you kind of,
Yeah,
oh,
you've
okay,
had enough.
my tank is full.
Yeah.
We'll check back in, later. Well, I'm having a kid in a couple months. I might not see you until
Congratulations.
until
Yeah,
2020.
awesome. Yeah.
We'll see. It's gonna be rough. All these like announced release dates are being launched, and I'm just like not playing that. Ooh, early October might be able to swing
Maybe.
that, but we'll see. No, but really, it is a pleasure, and it's another day. This is like a Disneyland day for many people. This extra Friday.
Yeah.
A lot of people just bail Thursday night or like first thing Friday morning, and the quickness at which you responded with gusto at the invitation to
Dude,
visit
we've been
the
trying to
ECL
do this
studio.
forever, and
Yeah.
it just never works out because we're always in LA for a specific reason. We're like, well, this reason's to talk about video games.
But we got, Blood Loves at GDC, and he always heads up for that. It
Yep.
might be fun to just kind of piggyback on that event, spend an extra day
Yeah.
in SF.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
stop by.
We got
Not to like
Blood on,
invite myself into your studio.
We try to get Blood on our shows every time he's up for GDC. It didn't work out this year, but I think the last 2 years it did.
Yeah, he did
yeah.
games
Nice.
daily for sure.
Yeah.
Fun to make the time to do it, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, we are going to go. We're not going offline. We're just going to go to a splash screen for a little bit. We're going to bring in some other wonderful people to talk about their impressions. But give it up, everybody at home, for Tim Geddes and Greg Miller, and we'll see you soon.